Hi everyone, Dog Thinny Bark Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a rough of the new Soccer Mommy record, Sometimes Forever. This LP is billed as the third full-length album from the main brain of this indie singer-songwriter project, Sophie Allison. Truth be told, I haven't really been much of a Soccer Mommy fan up till this point, not due to a distaste for Sophie's music or anything. Previous records, Clean and Color Theory, are perfectly fine listens. They are competently written and produced albums. But in the greater landscape of indie rock and indie singer-songwriters, to me they felt more standard than stand out. But anyway, this new one here is actually grabbing my attention. In fact, it was doing so before I had even heard a second of it, because it was announced that this LP was going to be produced by experimental and electronic music producer Daniel Lopatin, aka 106.Never, which, like, what? How? Like, this is honestly being underrated as one of the most unlikely crossovers of 2022. Who looks at Daniel's body of work and thinks of Soccer Mommy? And who reflects on Sophie's catalog so far and thinks R+7, Replica, or Garden of Delete? Like, what kind of fusion is gonna be going on here? Well, after listening to this thing multiple times, I'm happy to report that I think Sophie and Daniel make a better pairing than I even imagined. In numerous ways, in fact. As a producer should, Daniel on this LP plays a truly supportive role. While there are a lot of interesting sonic details flowing throughout these songs, none of them ever feel like they drown out or take away from Sophie's vocals and songwriting, which I think has improved a little bit on this record too. She perfectly distills these listless and dejected vibes that we get out of some of the best alternative rock and songwriter music out of the 90s, but doesn't end up finding herself existing in the shadow of any one or two or three artists in the process, which is especially the case since the production on this LP feels so vivid and rich and modern, even when it's so obviously pulling inspiration from the past, like with the blissful 60s style psych pop of With You, or the song Shotgun, which makes some very obvious shoegaze nods on the synth and guitar side. Sophie also comes through with a lot of clever little lyrical quips on these tracks. Whenever you want me, I'll be around. I'm a bullet in a shotgun waiting to sound. Also consider the surreal poeticism that comes through on the vocal break of NEWDEMO. The raw and intimately presented guitar chords and lyrics on the front end of Fire in the Driveway. Pure heartache, which, yes, feels like a familiar flavor from past Soccer Mommy records, but here, with these subtle sonic touches, and also just Sophie's voice and performance overall, it just feels intensified 4 or 5 times. So there definitely are some moments on this LP where it feels like we are hearing the Soccer Mommy that we've known up until this point, maybe almost to a fault, as the performance, especially on the vocal side of Don't Ask Me, feels a bit too measured. The production on this one's a little one note as well. It just kind of runs like this very old school piece of slow, emotive 90s fuzz rock. Feel It All the Time smacks a bit of blandness as well, but there are some highlights on this LP where the experimental and expanded instrumental palettes allow Sophie to explore some different musical modes, like with the eerie percussion and stuttering industrial bass tones on Unholy Affliction, possibly the strangest and darkest moment on the entire LP, with quite a few odd instrumental transitions that reflect the kind of creative chaos you come to expect anything that Daniel has his fingerprints on. But I love that Sophie's voice and words, as subtle as they are, remain this calm eye of the storm and come through really clear. Yeah, the ending on this track does fizzle out a bit, but it still sounds completely unlike anything else here. Then we have the profoundly grim Darkness Forever that finishes off with these twisted, heavy, distorted guitar chords. The track sounds like it's shooting for placement in a horror movie soundtrack. Some interesting moments flow throughout the ending of this record too, such as Following Eyes, whose magic I think is displayed in its contrast. The verses on this song feel pitch black, like I'm stuck at the bottom of a well. They do drag on a little bit, but eventually give way to these choruses that sound like getting your first kiss on prom night on the dance floor. We also have a quiet but emotionally intense finisher that sees Sophie describing the emotional waves that she moves through, either dealing with numbness or just too much. There are mentions of feeling not like a person, suicidal ideation, needing to medicate to deal with these problems. A lot of what's said narratively on this song, it's a little loose, it's not super tightly connected, but every line and every image that's displayed hits hard, cuts deep. Bones as an opener, I think, is a pretty strong beginning to this LP too, especially with those very rich and heavy shoegaze guitars, kicking the record off right at the very end. And yeah, I mean, overall I thought this was a versatile, creatively produced, and colorful indie rock record that really wears its heart on its sleeve, drums up plenty of soft but catchy vocal melodies in the process too. This record brings a lot of the standard vocal and guitar work that you may expect from a lot of LPs in the indie sphere, but there's enough cool compositional bells and whistles going on the production side that anything you may find familiar on this LP feels sharp and refreshing again. And it's with that I'll say I'm feeling a strong 7 to a light 8 on this one. Transition, have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head, it's another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Soccer Mommy, forever.